Right, so the craziness of the modern times continues. Yesterday, Chrystia Freeland was having an interview, and she said, second economic priority, we need growth and we need jobs. Let me assure Canadians that we understand the value of wise and prudent fiscal management, and that is a policy our government will continue. And Queen Polala here responds by saying she actually said that with a straight face. The most irresponsible, unethical, wasteful government Canada has ever been saddled with. I wouldn't trust any of these profligates with a jar of loose change. Now, it's absolute insanity. I mean, if you ask me, and I think if you ask anybody with half a brain, for many reasons. I mean, the first one being this is a government that's accumulated more debt in the last 6 months than Canada accumulated throughout its entire history, and it's not even close. Like it's not even close. Like the deficit this year was projected to be $30 billion, which is still way too high. We shouldn't have a deficit, but nonetheless, that's what it was projected to be, and yeah, we're at over 400 billion now, I believe, and we're on our way to being about a half a trillion. So yeah, that's literally like someone who has, second mortgage, their credit cards are maxed out, they got a line of credit on anything they can possibly get approved for. Talking about, yeah, I'm gonna be able to retire in a year from now, like some craziness like that. Like it's absolute insanity that, and I mean, the biggest crazy part, I guess, is the fact that most people believe them. Like most people believe them. Most people hear, oh yeah, we're being fiscally responsible, but like it's just pure insanity. Like it's pure insanity, and this is one of the many problems of things nowadays, that we've gotten so used to living like this that people think that you're being cruel by taking it away, right? Like if the minute you bring up taking away any form of benefits whatsoever these days, you are viciously attacked and vilified to the nth degree. um Not because you're wrong, or you're cold-hearted, or any of the crap they like to accuse you of. No, you're like not wanting to spend more money than we have available to spend year after year after year isn't a crazy policy. Wanting to spend more money than we have every year is, because eventually at some point the bills are going to come due, or the government's just going to print our money into obscurity, right? Like those are the only two options when it comes to this kind of stuff, is that either the government continues to print our money into, Zimbabwe at some point, or we we continue to just run massive deficits and just hope that it doesn't, come back to bite us, right? But it's gonna, either way you play it, it's gonna come back to bite us at some point. And that's what people just don't seem to realize. And like I say, people have gotten so used to government just giving people free money that they just print up, that they actually think that you're cold-hearted if you say, yeah, we can't keep doing that, right? Like, it's just pure insanity. It's pure insanity. And that's where this government is at. Like that's where this government is at. And again, there's one of two things that could be going on here, like I always bring up. The first one being, I don't think that's the one, like I always say, but I mean, I think it is a realistic, I guess, in that these people are just so incompetent that they genuinely believe that this kind of stuff is going to work out. Like that is possible, but I don't believe that people that at the highest levels of government, there's literally, a million people as qualified, or probably even more as qualified as Freeland, but there's hundreds of thousands of people as qualified as most of these politicians to be doing their jobs. Um, and yet these people are so incompetent that they don't even know what a budget is. Like they can't even describe to you what a budget is. I mean, we could explain these topics to, 7 8 year old kids, and they could explain it back with, pretty good clarity, right? Like it's very simple. You have $10 million to spend. If you continuously spend more than that, you're going to be in for a lot of trouble, and that's exactly what the government's doing. And not only that, it would be one thing, like all these people are like, oh yeah, they blame the whole pandemic thing, right? which doesn't matter. I mean, that's a stupid excuse, because they don't ever plan on paying the debt back. If they actually had a realistic plan to pay the debt back, I still would disagree with it, but at least I would be understanding and I wouldn't be so critical. The problem is that they have no plan to pay it back, because when the whole thing goes belly up, these people are probably, I mean, they're almost guaranteed retired. They have their pension, they're rich, they have their investments set up so that if the system does go belly up, they don't go broke. Again, so that's why things end up being so bad. When it comes to politics, is that if people make terrible decisions when it comes to politics, they almost never face the consequences of that. It's almost always someone else who faces the consequences for it, right? And that's the problem. Like, that's the problem, is that, I mean, I don't know what a perfect solution is to, and that's another thing that I really can't stand, is that you talk to the average person, and if you don't have a perfect solution you have a perfect answer for every their million what if questions that these people always ask you. If you don't have a perfect answer for every one of them, nope, that we got to keep doing what we're doing, because you can't answer my million questions, absolutely perfectly, right? And it's just pure insanity. Like, it's just pure and utter insanity. And Canada's credit rating has already been downgraded. The Bank of Canada, I believe, just announced that they're going to cut back on bond issuing. So again, that's just going to hurt things even more. And the other thing that they mentioned here, I wanted to get into a little bit, is that we need growth and we need jobs. Well, you guys aren't worried about growth and jobs. If you were, your solution to unemployment and, lower standards of living and, wages not going up, your solution wouldn't just be to print money. Like, that's what their solution is. If that was your solution, not to mention, if that was your solution, you would get rid of the carbon tax. You would get rid of all these stupid regulations. You would cut immigration. If they actually cared about that, that's what they would do. Because if you have mass immigration, if you have a carbon tax, if you have so many regulations, the economy is not going to grow. And if it is, it's going to be at a very slow pace. And a lot of it's going to be artificial, right? Like, a lot of it's going to be artificial. And that is one of the many problems also in modern times, is that so much of the economic growth is entirely artificial, or it has very little to no positive effect on the average person, right? Like, it has very little effect on the average person. So, yeah, I mean, it just needed a little bit of a rant on this, because it's just pure insanity. The next thing to bring up is Tucker Carlson had this virologist, Dr. Li Men Yang, and she said the virus was designed to target humans, which was intentionally released. This is a story that needs to be heard around the world. Don't let the CCP silence it. Now, again, the whole bat narrative was completely disproven. I mean, the bats live like 1,000 kilometers away, I believe. Not to mention, too, they didn't even serve or have those bats at the market that they claim that it came from. Not to mention, too, they completely destroyed all the evidence in said market. So again, if that was what happened, then why would you destroy the evidence? Like, again, the Chinese government is clearly covering something up. I think there's one of two obvious things that came of this, and this I literally been saying this since like May, right? Maybe even earlier, to be honest. I don't remember exactly when it was, but this is something that we've known for a long time. It's just now we're getting even more confirmation in that the first solution is through pure, just blatant negligence. The Chinese government let it out, or they intentionally let it out. One of the two. Either way, they look very, very bad. I mean, the second one, they look really bad. The second one is like, man, you guys are um, incompetent a-holes. Like, either way, they look absolutely terrible. But anyway, yeah, that's something that absolutely should be talked about, and this is something that we should be a lot more critical of China on. Like, the fact that China isn't the most hated country on earth right now is rather astounding to me. Does that mean that you should hate the random Chinese person that you come across? No. But should you hate the Chinese government with a passion? Absolutely. Again, so I just wanted to clarify that. And again, this should be talked about, but the mainstream media and most politicians aren't going to bring it up because they either probably flat out sympathize with the Chinese government, or at the very least, they're, you know, closer to communist than they are, freedom in any way, shape, or form. So that's why they are silent about it. And the next thing I wanted to bring up is from Paul Joseph Watson, and he says authorities in Quebec City have announced they will isolate uncooperative citizens in a facility. The location remains a secret. And Ezra Levant responds by saying, "If you want real news in Canada, you must look to the foreign press. They're not obedient to Trudeau." Remember, it took Time magazine to publish the blackface photos. Same with Quebec's secret prison. I'm a Canadian, just learning about it now from a UK reporter. Now, again, I mean, anybody who still watches the mainstream media and does it in a way that actually thinks you're being informed, like, again, like, I don't even have words for you. Like, I seriously don't have words for you. There is no difference between, North Korean or Chinese state-sponsored TV, or even Russian state-sponsored TV, than there is the CBC. Like, there's no difference. Like, there's no difference whatsoever. The only difference being is the people there know it's propaganda. Here, most people don't know. I shouldn't say that. Most people know it's propaganda in Canada, but I would say most people don't know to what extent it's propaganda. But anyway, that's something that should be brought up. And the other thing too, like, why are we accepting this too? Like, these are the same people that think that Trump is, oh, he's got his secret police, but yet we literally have this kind of stuff going on and nobody cares, right? Like, they're all up in arms against police brutality, but yet there's literal police brutality going on in Australia and New Zealand, like violently arresting people for not wearing masks. And I mean, the one girl was arrested for a Facebook post saying that we should have a anti-mask or anti-lockdown protest. Again, just absolute and utter tyranny going on, and crickets from the people that claim to care about this kind of stuff. And again, that's just all the more evidence that that these people could care less about um, police brutality and all this kind of stuff. It only matters when it fits their political agenda, right? And the last thing I wanted to bring up is, so there was I don't know if they actually were arrested, but this guy and his wife were threatened to be arrested because their 3-year-old and 19-month-old kid wouldn't wear a mask. And I mean, apparently they said that they were willing to have the 3-year-old wear one, but the 19-month-old um, didn't. Again, this is just absolute insanity. This mask cult is absolutely crazy. Like, and the fact that so many people just pretend like everybody wasn't against mask wearing, or at the very least the vast majority of people at the start of this whole thing, absolutely astounding. Like, and don't try and give me this, oh, the science changed. No, the science does not change from don't wear a mask, masks don't work, to we need to be forced to wear a mask, and if you don't, you should be arrested within a matter of a month. Like, science does not change that fast. I don't care what you say. And all the studies that people link to are just stupid. Oh, there's Japan didn't wear masks, therefore masks work. Like, come on. Like, Sweden didn't either, and they're perfectly fine. South Dakota didn't. They're perfectly fine. Not to mention, too, the cases are up in pretty much every major Canadian province, even though every major city has mask mandates again. So there's plenty of evidence going to the contrary as well. So, yeah, it's just pure insanity, like absolute craziness. And the problem being is that a lot of people kind of go along with it under the guise that, oh yeah, it'll only be to the end of the winter, but I've already seen places that have extended this kind of stuff over a year. I think there was a city somewhere in Canada, I think it was in Ontario. They extended it for like another year and a half. Like, this kind of stuff is going to go on for a while. And again, for all the people like, oh, the government, you're okay with being forced to wear pants. Like, no, that's completely different. Whether or not you wear pants or a shirt doesn't affect one's health, doesn't affect one's breathing, doesn't make people uncomfortable, unless you're purely insane, right? But we don't cater to the one in 1 million, right? We know there is negative health effects to wearing masks, and we know for most people there's no reason to wear them, and that's what every single expert would have told you for decades going into this whole thing, but yet now all of a sudden it changed, right? Like, again, it's just complete insanity. But anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, on BitChute, and on Parler. All those links are in the description, so if you can find them all there.